You ready for some more DM's Guild review? This time we're going to be covering Adaptable NPCs 2, a hit sequel to the previous module that I covered, I don't know, a year ago maybe? Adaptable NPCs 1. It is a resource with a whole bunch of new NPCs, and this time some pretty significant adventures to go with it as well. So if you want to see what I'm talking about, stay tuned. So let us jump on over to the DM's Guild. And here you can see Adaptable NPCs 2 by Grim Press. This is a best gold seller. It's been out, it was originally released basically right at the end of the year, but was last updated a little less than a month ago. It's currently got a 5-star, full 5-star rating with 10 ratings on the DM's Guild. But as I've stated, it's a best gold seller, so a lot of people have bought it, but it only has 10 ratings. So that's, again, another reason why I like to do what I do here to get your eyes on this. And, you know, also if you haven't reviewed it and you do like it, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, leave the review, let people know what they can tweak and fix, and then that helps to make it better for everybody. As you can see here, we do have some comments here, right, from comicbook.com and Crit Academy, some, you know, reputable folks within the industry, and you can kind of see the previews here. You're going to get a nice custom piece of art that matches the NPC. There's a little stat block on history, and then the actual stat block itself, and then here you can see at the end, there's maps and encounters that go with it. Also available on Fantasy Grounds. Fantasy Grounds looks like it is, you can get a bundle where you can get them both via, and there's also Adaptable NPCs Calamity, but you can see there are several other works from folks behind this title as well, so things to keep in mind. So that being said, let us jump on over to the document right here. And so what I'm thinking is, I went through, and obviously it is $19.99 on the DM Guild, so I'm not going to sugarcoat that, right? It is going to cost money to get that, but you are going to be getting a significant amount of NPCs. If we scroll down, take a look at this, right? This is, I'll zoom this in a little bit for you. That is the list of NPCs that you're getting in this document. So you are getting a ton. I don't know if it says how many you're going to get. 110 NPCs with unique stat blocks. So I'm going to go through 3 NPCs in detail. We're actually going to go to the page and I'm going to read through it and discuss why I like it with you. And then 1 adventure as well. But I did want to just draw your attention to this list and show you that you have NPCs going from a challenge rating 1/8, so things that level 0 characters in theory could almost fight, or definitely level 1, all the way up to CR 18. All right, obviously as you get higher in the challenge rating, you're going to get less creatures because they're less frequent. It doesn't make a ton of sense to make a large amount of high level, high CR monsters, as most games don't make it that far, right? We have a couple of 1 of 18, 17, 16, 2 for 15, but then we jump up to 4 for 14, 3 for 13. You can see that. You'll also see, what I thought was interesting, was a lot of them are tied to, they're like basically NPC versions of newer classes that were released, or subclasses, right? So you can see here, what do we got? The Twilight Druid, the Hexblade Warlock, right? These are subclasses. Twilight Druid was a Unearthed Arcana Druid that didn't make it officially published, but either way. What else do we got here? I think I saw the Rune Knights in here somewhere. I don't know if anything else jumps out at me as being something tied to a subclass specifically, but you get my point, right? There's things like that. Oh, here's the Rune Knight over here. The Gloomstalker, right, like Gloomstalker Ranger. So there's options that will tie the Wild Mage, things that are tied to existing subclasses. So I wanted to go through 3 different ones with you. They are of varying CRs throughout the spectrum. And then again, we'll go through one of the pathways to adventure. My only potential thing that I don't like is that the NPCs are sorted by challenge rating, and that's a very minor nitpick, because that is good if you're using this resource in the moment and you need to pull up a monster. Personal opinion, I like things sorted alphabetically. Yes, personal opinion, but it is what it is, because I didn't actually write down what things CRs were, so I'm actually looking through it right now. That didn't work. It wasn't too bad, though. I was able to figure it out easily enough. So number 1 on mine we're going to go over here is the Amethyst Knight. This is a challenge rating 9 creature. It is a humanoid of any non-good alignment. So, denizens of the sunless depths beneath the earth excuse me, are enigmatic to surface dwellers. One of the most fearsome of these deep dwellers is the Deep Dragon, which is a type of dragon. I don't believe it exists in 5th edition, but it was like an Underdark dragon. A sinuous drake, almost like a more snake-like than dragon, adapted to living and hunting in total darkness. These clever and manipulative creatures revel in dominating and subjugating lesser beings. Uncharacteristically rare occurrences have led to these dragons to form a bond with the strongest of their subjects, bringing them into a special regiment and granting them gifts for their servitude. So essentially like a warlock patron, or in potentially if you want to look at it as like a paladin, right? You are gaining powers from being bonded to this deep dragon creature. It has potent mental abilities capable of manipulating even the strongest of willed characters. Amethyst Knights possess keen senses bestowed on them by deep dragons themselves. They're able to see in pitch dark of the depths and hear even the smallest creatures. And the powerful energies of the Deep Dragon have passed onto the Amethyst, albeit in limited form. I think Deep Dragons had spell immunity, just outright. So here's our Amethyst Knight. Wears Plate Mail, so 18 AC, 136 hit points. Con and Wisdom saving throws, proficiency in Perception and Survival, immunity to psychic damage, blind sight out to 60 feet, so good luck sneaking up. Imbued Weapon. The Amethyst Knight weapon attacks are considered magical for purposes of overcoming damage resistance, and when it hits with any weapon, the weapon deals an extra 1d6 psychic damage. That's included in the weapon attacks we're going to get to. It does have light sensitivity, not sunlight sensitivity, just light. While in bright light, has disadvantage on attack rolls as well as perception checks that rely on sight. The Amethyst Knight is the target of a 2nd level or lower spell. It is not affected by it unless it chooses to be, right? So like a Rakshasa can do that with 6th level spells. I don't remember if Deep Dragons were a spell level or just flat out immunity. And then Underground Dweller, when in underground terrain, it has advantage on perception checks. It can make 3 attacks with its Greatsword, which do 2d6 plus 4 damage, plus that additional psychic damage, so not a small amount of damage by any means. Has a breath weapon as well, it recharges on a 5/6. A purple dragon manifests above the knight's head and exhales a 30-foot cone. DC 16 dex save, or take 10d10 psychic damage on a failed save, or half on a success. And then it does have legendary actions, 3 of them, 1 for move up to half its speed, 1 for making an attack, and all 3 to use the breath weapon if it's available. So just a cool thing. Again, if you're unfamiliar with deep dragons or deep drakes, I can't remember what book they were in 3.5. They were in a couple, but they exist. They're out there. They're worth checking out. And then the idea of like a knight who becomes bonded, and then you could also deal with the whole idea, does the knight form this bond with the dragon willingly? Are they subjugated into this servitude so that they can survive, but you can maybe free the knight from the dragon's, thrall? Or maybe they're just flat out evil and this furthered their, agenda. Very cool stuff. So, next, I have to jump back here. All right, so we're going up to CR 17, or on the other end of the spectrum, for the Benevolent Deity. Okay, this one I thought was pretty cool too. So, for all but a few, the gods are shrouded in mystery, but a few mortals, perhaps the most pious and devout followers, may commune with and even be answered by a benevolent deity. These beings of immense power usually remain aloof from the struggles and everyday existence of the mortal realm, choosing instead to allow existence to proceed with perhaps just a bit of their subtle influence. The powers of the benevolent deity knows no limit, and none will ever speak to them unless with less than the deepest of respect, as they will tolerate nothing but the utmost reverence. Guidance from the gods, the benevolent deity may grant boons or requests to their faithful servants, or provide wise counsel should their followers offer sufficient justification. They will refrain from direct interference, however, lest catastrophic conflict between godlike powers be the result of their meddling. So I wanted to talk about this one because I thought it was interesting, because it's essentially a deity stat block, but it's a good deity stat block. It's not tied to a specific deity. It's just like, here's a good benevolent deity. Right now, we've seen stats for certain gods. Right, we saw Tiamat's stats in the back of Rise of Tiamat, where it's a CR 30, and has a whole bunch of stuff. And they basically state in that book, yes, it has stat blocks, but its stats are above and beyond anything you could put in a specific block, because gods shouldn't be able to be killed by mortals unless it fits the story and a whole bunch of other stuff happens. So this being a challenge rating 17 is weird to me, because in theory, you as a player could get to a level 20, which could be stronger than this in theory. But it also just helps to, this could be someone posing as a deity, right? Or someone who has ascended beyond whatever base level they were, but maybe not full godhood. Let's take a look at what the stats are. 18 natural AC, 237 hit points. Proficiency in intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saves. Resistance to psychic damage. Immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic. True sight out to 120 feet. And then immunity to charm, exhausted, frightened, and poisoned. It is an 18th level spellcaster using wisdom, as like a cleric would, with DC 18 spell save and a plus 10 to hit with spell attacks. Guidance, light, spare the dying, thaumaturgy, word of radiance. First level, bless, ceremony, cure wounds, detect evil or good, divine favor, protection from evil, good, and sanctuary. So we're basically going to be looking at just like a really good, almost like a lifestyle cleric here. Aid, altar form, augury, lesser restoration, prayer of healing, warding, bond, zone of truth for second level. Aura of vitality, clairvoyance, magic circle, mass healing word at third. Aura of life, aura of purity, banishment, death ward, divination, freedom of movement, guardian of faith at 4. Banishing, smite, commune, dispel evil and good, greater restoration, legend, lore, mass cure wounds at 5. Find the path, forbiddance, hero's feast, true seeing at 6. I don't know why they would cast true seeing, because they already have it, but plane shift, resurrection at 7th, control weather, holy aura at 8, and then gate and true resurrection at 9. The one action they have if they're not casting a spell is divine radiance. It directs a beam of pure holy light at a creature it can see within 120 feet. That creature must make a DC 19 wisdom saving throw or take 16 d10 radiant damage, half on a success. The saving throw is made with disadvantage if the target is of evil alignment. And then lastly, we have 3 legendary actions. One can be used for holy direction. The benevolent deity bolsters, I think that's supposed to be bolsters, it says bolters, a nearby creature of its choice within 60 feet of it that it can see. The creature has advantage on the next attack roll it makes within 1 minute. 2 is Dispel Magic. It casts Dispel Magic as it would, but without expending a spell slot. And all 3, for Holy Missive, the benevolent deity utters a message of power. A creature of evil alignment within 30 feet must make a DC 19 wisdom saving throw or be frightened until the end of its next turn. So it's good. It's really just a caster with high AC and high HP. And then obviously the Divine Radiance is just an always-on thing you can use every turn as an action to do 16 d10 radiant damage out to 120 feet, which is obviously exceptionally powerful. But I don't know. I put it in here because I wanted to showcase it to you, but I also am unsure about it because it's not a deity specifically. It's just a good benevolent deity or something posing to be one. But I just don't feel like it gives me the, like, it doesn't have any, like, can't be killed, automatically raised from the dead, or stuff that makes me think of, like, of a god. Like, am I gonna just, me, level 17 player, group of level 17 players, just gonna murder down a benevolent deity? Obviously, if you're good characters, you're probably not, because they're benevolent, but you get my point. Like, that also goes back to the whole idea, like, right, if it has a stat block, it can be killed, kind of a thing. I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this creature. And lastly, this one's mostly for fun, because I wanted to do something that was very low challenge rating. It's a challenge rating 1, and it's a were sparrow, right? We know werewolves, we know were bears, were tigers, were rats. We know were bats, I think we're in Curse of Strahd. Now, were sparrows. I really want to wear hummingbird now that I've thought about this, just throwing it out there. Anyway, lycanthropy is an affliction passed down from the bite of infected creatures through hereditary bloodlines. Some rare bloodlines have learned to control their curse and bond with a natural creature from infancy that they feel an affinity towards. This controlled lycanthropy has been the emergence of new lycanthrope species such as the were sparrow. A weresparrow is bonded with one of these curious and agile birds, perhaps drawn to its inquisitive spirit. In humanoid form, they are best described as runt-like, with beady eyes constantly darting about. They are nervous and curious in nature, prone to distraction and in constant movement. They make excellent scouts and pickpockets, and can easily infiltrate even the most well-guarded fortresses. Mimic, the weresparrow can accurately mimic sounds it's heard previously, including sounds not made by creatures such as the sound of a blacksmith's hammer. So, can you just picture the scene? Right, obviously they're saying in the background story here they can control their transformation, but could you imagine if they couldn't? Could you think about every scene from any movie or pop culture where you've seen the excruciating transformation of the human into the werewolf and then the terrifying final form of the werewolf ready to bear you down, and someone's undergoing this and they turn into a weresparrow. Well, I can see the look on my players' faces just being like, wait, what? A were what? But I also like the idea of having to deal with a lycanthrope campaign. And first of all, they said these people are short, they're kind of beady-eyed, they look nervous, and they're darting around. So people are going to be suspicious of someone that's like that, regardless of their lycanthropic nature or not. But if they're doing that, and then it turns out that they're a weresparrow, I don't know. I can see the humor and the fun in the moment, and everybody really liking it. So I'm gonna put these in my game. I think I'm actually in a spot where I can do that very well currently. So let's look at the stat block. 13 in humanoid form, 14 in natural armor form, in sparrow or hybrid form. 17 hit points, 30 foot or 50 foot in sparrow. And what's interesting is 50 foot fly speed in sparrow form, so it just looks like a bird, but also in the weresparrow hybrid form, it has fly speed as well. Immunity to bludgeoning, so standard immunities, right, for a were creature. Immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic attacks that are made with silver weapons. Innate spellcasting of minor illusion, message 3 times per day each, and once per day expeditious retreat. It's a wisdom-based, save DC 13. We already talked about the mimicry. Can mimic simple sounds it has heard, such as a person whispering, a baby crying, or an animal chittering. A creature that hears it can make an insight check, DC 10, to see if it's real. They have the shapeshifter kind of stat type. They can change between a sparrow, humanoid hybrid, a sparrow, or back to human form. And it has a beak attack in sparrow or hybrid form with +5 to hit, dealing 1 point of damage. And it says raven form because this is clearly adapted from a were-raven, but it should say sparrow form. 1 point of piercing damage in sparrow form, or 1d4 +3 piercing damage in hybrid form. If the target is humanoid, it must succeed a DC 8 con save or be cursed with it says were-raven right there, but weresparrow lycanthropy. And then just a straight up dagger attack. Nothing, +5 to hit, D6 +3. Also, their daggers do a D6 +3 as opposed to a D4 like every other dagger. Well, clearly there's a couple of typos that I found. Nobody's perfect, but it is what it is. Either way, I think it would be hilarious, and I think you should consider putting it, especially if people build up in their mind oh my god, were creatures, the werewolves, oh my god, we gotta be careful, and it's weresparrows. Okay, now I said we're going to go over one of the paths to adventure. So we're going to discuss, I picked the Flooded Temple as the one to go over. But you can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different encounters, and they vary in range. So I picked the Flooded Temple. This is a recommended party, 4 to 6 players of 5th to 7th level. So, a dashing and daring adventurer encountered in a tavern has told of a flooded temple nestled in a nearby coastline. Regaling the players with a tale of wondrous treasures and escape from a number of mysterious pirate-like figures, he entices a party to accompany him on a daring raid. So, a rowdy seafarer, which is someone we have in this dock, has convinced a group of adventurers to accompany him on a daring raid to plunder this temple. Let's see. The rowdy seafarer has told tales of mysterious pirates bearing rusted blades and hideously disfigured features known as reavers, found again in this document. These figures killed several of his fellow raiders, only he escaped. As the adventure progresses through the flooded temple, it becomes more clear the reavers are guided by a much more sinister presence, a priestess of the deep, again, found in this document. Party can also encounter merfolk, the ones found in the Dungeon Master's Guide, or sorry, the Monster Manual as well. Recommended party, and then it has the battle map, because we do have a map here, which is very detailed. This one has 36 different rooms in it. So it says right here, it tells you what's included. NPCs included from other sources. You're going to need the Hunter Shark from the Monster Manual, Merfolk, and Water Weird from the Monster Manual as well. The scenario includes random encounters with packs of Reavers, reanimated by a mysterious Priestess of the Deep. The Merfolk in this adventure have been under siege by Reavers and the Priestess of the Deep. And it says, quick thoughts, the Reavers are bloodthirsty undead pirates who take glee in tormenting their quarry. Could they set cunning traps, luring the adventurers into a trap with a Hunter Shark? Or might they isolate and kidnap one of the players, as the Merfolk benign... are the Merfolk benign or aggressive upon first encounter? And then it just has a breakdown here of the first 36 rooms, I think. Well, okay, yeah, if the first 36 rooms, this is supposed to be tabbed down, I think, to the next line. Maybe not. And then it shows you the 36 rooms and what's inside. So, again, a statue, no big deal. A sea stone sarcophagus, the gold crown, worth 50 gold. Area 5 leads to Area 6, which has Reavers in it. Area 7 leads to Area 8, which is a partially underwater galley with decomposing corpses. Area 16, 17 are flooded hallways. And it says the following areas have 10-foot ceilings, now it tells you here, and are completely underwater from 9 on. Area 10 is a treasure room containing chests bearing the bounty obtained by Reavers from their raids. Roll on the treasure hoard table, challenge 0 to 4 in the DMG to figure out what's in there. More passages, a room with merfolk, have barricaded a door leading to 14. Passage and area 15, partially submerged, where the Reaver Patrol lurks. I said Reaver, but Reaver Patrol lurks. Rotting remains, there's a water weird, a pair of water weirds in area 20. Area 22 has a tomb that has a +1 longsword in it. Area 23 leads to 24, which has a Hunter Sharks feeding on the remains of the rowdy seafarer from the start of the adventure, his companions. Area 25 leads to 26, and that contains precious items along with the Priestess, the kind of final boss of the thing. 4 Reavers begin animating it if she attacks. Roll on a treasure hoard challenge 5 to 10 table to figure out what's in there. Passage area 27 leads to 28, a room for meditation sealed by a collapsed passage. And then 29 is a congregation room through area 20 that leads to area 31, where another statue of the goddess is found. 34 and 35 have crates with rusted weapons, and 36 is a room that steps leading out into the ocean. So, again, what I really like is you have the full battle map here. You have more background on the adventure, and then you just basically have a bulleted list of high key points for each room. And one thing I would recommend to you is if you're trying to figure out how you want to do an adventure or how you want to stat out dungeons or things that you're making and you're not sure to put in it, I would probably stick to utilizing something like this. Come up with your map, number all the rooms, give yourself the high-level narrative of what the point of this is, give yourself a list of what kind of things people are going to encounter in there, maybe the page number so you can quick reference back, and then a quick, simple, bulleted list as to what's going to be in each room so you can come up with ideas on the fly as to, like, if you need to tweak or alter or add something into the room. Like, this is a room that has 6 Reavers. I didn't describe what else is in it in my notes, but maybe in here there's 6 Reavers, but there's also beds, tables, and that's also an opportunity where your players may give you something better than you could have thought of. Where you're like, this room has 6 Reavers, and the players are like, oh, what are they doing? Sitting around playing cards? And you're like, yep, sitting around playing cards. Now you've just added a card table, cards, maybe they're betting, maybe there's coin on the table, that kind of a thing. So this is just a very quick, a good 2-page reference guide for you to run an encounter that could probably take 2 to 3 hours if they're being meticulous as they're going through the dungeon. So again, a very good resource. Adaptable NPCs 2. I particularly like it. There will be a link in the description if you'd like to go pick up a copy for yourself. Also, just so you know, the links that I put in the description for the DM's Guild, a very small portion of that makes its way back to me if you click and purchase it through my link. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm starting to see a trend as I make more and more of these videos, that videos that are tied to things for dungeon masters seem to do less numbers wise than things that could be tied to players. And I guess that kind of makes sense, right? DMs are usually a minority compared to players. So if it's a resource that's monsters, or a resource that's NPCs or mechanics or stuff like that, the dungeon masters typically watch it, which is good, and they do usually spark up good conversation in the comments. But things like magic items or subclasses or things like that, resources for new classes, new races, that kind of thing, seem to do better overall, or because I guess more players are out there watching the content. I could be wrong, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments what your thoughts are on this. If you haven't taken a chance to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell and all that stuff, I would appreciate it if you did so, and I will see you next time.